always moving, but his hands are never really straight for pretty much 2/3 of the lap until you get to the outside of turn 17. It's a fantastic, exciting sequence. Frankly, standing here, I feel quite jealous I'm not in the car. This is an important bit here. As you get to 11, 12, 13, I'll just slow it down a little bit. It's so important at that part to not have any movement on the rear. This is where the drivers we see often have a snap. There's a bump at that apex of 13, puts them offline. Watch the braking for this one as well. The drivers use the inside line, which seems unconventional, but that's where the grip is. That's where the tracks got cleaned up. So yeah, I'll stop it there, because I think for me, so much of the performance comes really from that first 2/3 of the lap, and then the drivers have got to get the braking right for the last couple of corners, JJ.
So we're only minutes away now from the start of qualifying. How do you kind of like see it playing out today?
Well, I'm personally very excited to see who will recover from yesterday, who didn't do so good, and who can repeat the performance. So yeah, it's really amazing track, and I can't wait to see the drivers master it and show us some real art.
Oh, well, the drivers, they're in the car. They're prepared and ready. The mechanics have put in through those last-minute preparations. So I think we can head to our commentary team. So that's enough talking. The temperature's rising, the drivers and teams are ready, and it's time for qualifying. And to talk you through it all, let's join our commentary duo of Tom Brooks and Dario Franchitti.
It is the second round of the 2024 ABB FIA Formula E World Championship. We're in the desert in Diriyah. Yesterday, we saw Jake Dennis taking a commanding victory under the lights. Can he repeat the same feat, though, here this evening? That's the question we're all asking. And this, coming up over the next hour or so, will be crucial to that. Qualifying, we've got 2 group stages if you're new to Formula E. We split the 22 drivers into groups of 11. Then the top 4 from each of those groups goes forward into the duels. Then we have the quarterfinals into the semi-finals, and then 2 drivers go head-to-head with one another in the fight for pole position. It is going to be extremely exciting to see how this all works out. Dario Franchitti, weather conditions a little bit cooler today. How do you think that's going to affect things?
Yeah, definitely cooler. That produces more grip from the track, from the tyres. The track is a lot cleaner. Last night's race cleaned the track up quite a lot from what the drivers faced in qualifying yesterday. But this is the bit they all love. No energy saving, just who's the quickest driver in town, who's got the quickest car, and who can nail all 3 sectors of this lap, all 21 turns, and that is easier said than done.
Yeah, so the green flag flies. Group A qualifying session gets underway. In this group, we've got Pascal Wehrlein, Jean-Eric Vergne, Mitch Evans, Maximilian Günther, Norman Nato, Stoffel van Dorn, Robin Freins, Sasha Fenestraz, Nick de Vries, Antonio Felix da Costa, and Dan Tickton. As I said, only 4 of those drivers will be able to make it through. Scan the QR code on the bottom left-hand corner of your screen, by the way, if you want to get involved in the Formula E Predictor. When we get over to the duels, you can decide who you think is going to be the driver that will make the most progress and then get forward, hopefully, into the finals as well. So, drivers now heading out onto the track. The track, as you said, Dario, has cleaned up quite a lot. If we look at the lap times we had in qualifying yesterday, we were around the sort of high 112s, early 113s. If we look at where we were in free practice 3 this morning, we were down to the 110s.
That's a different postcode, isn't it? That's a massive difference in lap time. It just shows how the track has really cleaned up. As I said, the cars will handle differently though. With more grip, it changes the car balance, the grip level front to rear, and that is absolutely critical to get that right for these 1 laps. Also with car balance, we're running right now in the group stages at 300 kilowatts of power. If you get into the top 4, you get into the duels, that gets ramped up to 350, and that completely changes the way the car handles, and you approach the corners, obviously, much quicker too.
Yeah, these are drivers then making their way. This is down the back straight of the exit of turn 17 on the run down into turns 18 and 19. This is where we saw Mitch Evans make a bit of a Horlicks of it on the braking in the final stages of the race when he was trying to battle Jean-Eric Vergne for the 2nd place on the podium. Eventually, of course, he would finish in 5th position, but the first laps about to come in for the session as Dan Tickton begins a flyer in the ERT. Contrasting fortunes for ERT, actually, this weekend. Sergio Sette-Câmara, belter of a qualifying yesterday. Fourth place on the grid is where he started. Teammate Dan Tickton was down in 19th place. Sette-Câmara ending up in the points in the race. And come the race for Dan Tickton, he was some 30 seconds or so off the nearest rival in the field. So Tickton seemingly struggling with that car at the early stage of the season. So we'll see how he's going to be able to fare. You can see they're just running it a little bit wide. This run through turn 14 all the way down to, turn 4 all the way down to turn 14, it's just effectively one constant corner, isn't it?
Yeah, it is absolutely. Left, right, left, right. This is him now coming through 17 on the way up the hill. Karun made the point, in turn 17, they used to take kind of a wide entry to maximise their exit speed to get the car straighter earlier. Now they've found a lot of grip on the inside compared to the outside, so the line has completely changed since over the last couple of seasons. A lot bumpier on the braking zone into 18 as well. This is Dan Tickton approaching turn 21, though, end of the lap, and he's gone a bit wide.
Yeah, slightly wide there, just lost a little bit of time, didn't he? And unfortunately for him, it ends up being some 4 seconds off. He's on a build lap at the moment. What I mean by that is he's just trying to get the tyres into the optimum working window. So this is the sort of time where the drivers just find their feet really in the early stages of the session. The general consensus is actually here as well that it takes a couple of laps to get these tyres switched on, which is fine when you're in these group qualifying stages. But when we get into the duels, they're going to have to really be pushing on the out laps.
Yeah, and you've got 3 sets of tyres, double header weekend, so each car has 3 sets of tyres, and they can use those as they want throughout qualifying. So you might find, because it's quite light on tyre wear, you might leave the tyres on the car between runs because you've got the heat built up into the car. As we see, Sasha Fenstras coming up to turn 21 now. Again, that last corner got to the apex quite nicely. Where does this put him?
He comes across the timing line. Fenstras going fastest, some 2 seconds better than the next best time by Pascal Wehrlein. I have to say, Porsche looking somewhat on the back foot here this weekend. Contrasting fortunes for Wehrlein in particular. Of course, pole position and a very commanding victory a couple of weeks ago. This time, though, it was 6th on the grid for him yesterday, and at the checkered flag, he would eventually come home in 8th place. So a couple of points on the board, but seemingly the factory Porsche team struggling this weekend.
Yeah, they have obviously a technical alliance with the Andretti guys, same powertrain in both cars, and the Andretti guys clearly won the race. So I'd be looking at what they're doing and trying to put that setup on the car as much as I possibly could. You see Mitch Evans quickest in free practice 3 this morning. See if you can replicate that this afternoon. Had a tough race yesterday. I mean, like we talked about it coming into the show, looking like a podium until he got there on the last lap, and it all went wrong.
Yeah, it seems to be going okay though for Evans so far on this, his first push lap of the session, as he makes his way through out of the final corner and across the timeline, goes fastest by 0.2 of a second. So nice lap time there for Mitch Evans to just put that banker in. And we'll see what sort of progress he is going to be able to make. As I said, the top 4 drivers will be going through into the duels.
Yeah, Wehrlein 0.4 off through that first sector. I don't know if there's a mistake there or the pace just is not there. You see on board now, driver's eye view, the camera right next to the driver's eye in the helmet, hence the name. Wehrlein P5.
Yeah.
Nearly half a second off.
Yeah, Karun, what do you make of this session here so far? We're just on board with Pascal Wehrlein at the moment as he just goes 5th fastest.
Yeah, one thing that has changed, guys, is that the sun's come out since they did free practice. When we arrived at the circuit earlier today, it was sort of overcast conditions. We thought the track temperature was going to be down. As I see the cars coming into the pit lane to change their tires, the temperature is going up all the time. So while the track is cleaner and better than yesterday, the hotter temperatures will have an effect of potentially a bit less grip than they were expecting.
Yeah, thanks, Karun. That's a very good point, actually. I wonder how that is going to affect things. I mean, what were we up air temperature-wise yesterday? About 27, 28 degrees. Highest it's been so far is about 21. You see the team principals here watching on. No Tommaso Volpe for Nissan, by the way. Unfortunately, he's had to go home for a family emergency, so we wish him and his family all the best. And taking his place here this weekend for round 3 will be Dorian Boistron, the team director for Nissan. And he'll be taking over those duties.
Okay, so that's P6, 5/10 off. So 1 in sector 1, 3/10 sector 2, and 3/10 sector 3.
So Stan Tixon's race engineer just saying where he's losing time relative to those around him.
Yeah, and at this point, there's not really time. You can't analyse any data. You've just got to go, hopefully, in his head, he's going, yeah, I know I was a little bit, made a mistake there, or I just didn't quite carry enough speed at that point. Otherwise, it's a bit of a loss. This is the point in qualifying, though, this next run. If you've got to go a little bit into the unknown if you're maybe in Dan Tixon's position. Mitch Evans, he's got a bit more confidence of what he did this morning. He knows where the limit is. Dan Tixon's got to kind of throw a bit of more of a Hail Mary, as you would say, maybe an American football term, to try and get that lap that will get him into the duels later on.
Yes, all the drivers, but for Sacha Fenestraz now in the pit lane, they're going to go out for one final run of the session. You can see them putting some new hand-cooked tyres on the Porsche.
Now, what Fenestraz has to watch is when he is on his push lap, that everybody else, or certainly his first push lap, that everybody else isn't coming out of the pits and trying to build temperature. So if he gets the traffic down the hill from 5 to 14, then he's in all kinds of trouble. Then he has to back off, and he might run out of time, or tyres are not in their operating window when he needs to push the next lap.
Turn 21, is it late into apex or early on the braking? Question.
More like late into the apex.
So that's just discussing their turn 21, that's the final corner, and just saying that he's a little bit late on the apex into that turn.
Yeah, they're just discussing the exact point on the corner where the problem is, so the engineer can look closer at the data and make the appropriate adjustment, because different adjustments required through different points of the corner, whether you're on the brakes, off both pedals, back on the throttle, all these things have to be considered. You see Fenestraz pushing down the hill. It's come down to 14 now. This is the right-hander at 14, bottom of the hill, lowest point of the track. And he's got a bit of a left kink in 15. And watch how close he rides to the inside of the corner through the double apex right-hander of 16, 17. Back to throttle. What does the power down look like? Quite nice, one little wiggle, but certainly a lot more grip than yesterday. Now watch the bumps as he brakes for turn 18.
It's a proper toboggan run into there, isn't it? And you can really see for Fenestraz just how hard he's having to push, and also crucially how dusty it was offline here yesterday as well. Fenestraz coming through the final corner, 2 minutes remaining of the session. Where does it put him? It goes fastest, a 1 minute 10.848, so not a bad lap time for the French Argentine.
He's got time for a cool down lap, and then he can push again.
What about Norman Nato as well? On the other side of the Andretti garage, of course, is Jake Dennis, who took the win here yesterday. Nato's shown good pace this weekend, but the podium eluded him. Coming down in towards turn 21. Nato begins to wind himself up and get ready for a flying lap then. 10th fastest for him at the moment. That will not be a welcome sight. Likewise, Antonio Felix da Costa in the second of the Porsches, down in 11th place here in this session. It has been just an absolute dog's dinner of an opening start to the season for the former champion.
Yeah, I mean, da Costa, as you say, former champion, he knows how to get it done, but he's just struggling right now. He's just not happy with the feeling in the car. He can't get the messages from the car, from the feedback from the car that makes him confident, so he's second-guessing himself, and he's in a bit of trouble. He really needs a big result in qualifying here, because if you start at the back, as we've talked about, you're not going to get your way up into the points, and he needs to kickstart his season.
On board here, we ride then with Norman Nato to give you a proper view of proceedings. I have to say, one thing we need to consider in this session as well, Dario, is traffic, because in the duels, and this is exactly what I was talking about, look at these drivers.
It's rush hour.
Yeah, it is. It's like being on the M25.
We stay behind Pascal and we follow him if he overtakes.
So tactics there for Team Porsche. So da Costa sits behind Pascal Wehrlein, but Wehrlein's stuck behind another good number of cars, and they're all just coming through turn 17.
Now, if you're da Costa, you're last in this group. Do you back off to then really get a run into the lap? Because if you don't, then you're sort of backing off as you start the lap. It throws your rhythm off quite a lot. Oh, we've got a bit of an overtake coming here.
Yeah, bit of action there. That's the Mahindra of Nick de Vries trying to get past Max Günther. Günther's been really quick so far in practice and was inside the top 5 this morning. Robin Freins as well, not looking too bad. This is the traffic jam that we're alluding to. And look, they're all just waiting for the last opportunity to cross the timing line here, aren't they, coming into this the final corner.
And there's enough time, you know, you see 14 seconds on the clock. Everybody's going to get through.
what they're trying to do here is to be the last driver to cross the line, so that when they do, they have set the last representative time. The thing is, there's a risk that's involved with that, though, because if a yellow flag comes out, that can scupper your lap time and ruin your chances.
Oh, absolutely right, but that is the risk you take. We see Dan Ticktum coming through turn 18, 19 now, looks neat and tidy. Whether it's quick or not, it's a different thing. He's quickest, he's done his best 2 sectors to start the lap. Last corner coming up.
Ticktum then, what is he going to be able to do? Makes his way through turn 21, the final corner, goes third quickest at the checkered flag. Nice lap time there for Dan Ticktum. At the moment, he's into the duels. Fenestraz comes over, and he improves on that fastest time just by a fraction. Norman Natto is going to be the next of the drivers to make it through. Where does he go? It's 4th quickest at the checkered flag for the Frenchman then. Good lap time for Norman Natto. Now Mitch Evans, 2nd fastest. Good for him. A few more drivers still left to run, though, in this session, and personal best sector times coming through.
Yeah, Frine's gone up to P2, Evans now 3.
Yeah, Evans down to 4th. He's on the bubble here, and Jean-Eric Verne puts a belter in and goes 3rd quickest. He knocks out Mitch Evans. So front row yesterday for Mitch Evans, as Gunther improves to go 5th fastest. Nick de Vries goes 8th quickest at the end of this session as well. Don't know if Da Costa and Verline are going to do anything. No! Pascal Verline is out of qualifying, as is Antonio Felix da Costa. It is pain for Porsche in the Group A qualifying session. Then both of their drivers out. Both DS Penske's go through, as well as Sasha Fenestraz and Robin Freins. But crucially as well, along with the 2 Porsches, Mitch Evans started from the front row yesterday, and he will not progress forwards into the duel. So it's Fenestraz, Freins, Verne and Stoppel van Dorn, the drivers that make it through into the duels from Group A. Let's see how it all works out for Group B in a couple of minutes. Well, it was so action-packed. This is Nick de Vries just trying to make a bit of a move here on Max Gunther going in towards 18 and 19.
This is qualifying, everybody.
It was an ambitious lunge, wasn't it?
It was just, he's trying to get track position. He wants to get, he doesn't want the traffic in front of him. And as much as anything, it's the sight line. You go down that hill through 5, 6, 7.
Any feedback on tire sequence for Oli?
Yeah, first lap of the 2nd run is definitely the tires are not in.
That's good information for his Nissan teammate Oliver Rowland. Just tell him about the tyres aren't in on that first lap. Yeah, the sight line, if you've got anybody right in front of you, it blocks your sight line down the hill, and it's nice to have a clear view through the corner.
Yeah, you can see there the drivers that did not make it through. So Fenestraz, Freins, Verne, Van Dorn go through. Antonio Felix da Costa some 2nd off the pace. That's an arm and a leg of time in Formula E terms. Crucially, Mitch Evans out as well. What a disaster for the Kiwi. He is going to have an uphill struggle from this point on. We've been reiterating over this weekend multiple times just how critical qualifying is here in Diriyah. It's not worked out at all for him.
No, it hasn't, but it just shows how difficult this is. 1 lap. You get 1 lap at it, and if you make the slightest mistake, it's over. And that could ruin your E-Prix this afternoon. But you've got to be able to do it. And you've got to have everything lined up in your favour as well. Car setup, all that stuff, timing, tyres in the window. You've got to do the job, and it'll be interesting to find out from Jaguar and from Mitch what happened there.
Yep, so out of the car comes Jean-Eric Verne. The man who, of course, qualified on pole position, a record-breaking 16th pole position that he got here with Sebastian Buemi yesterday. Can he take the lead in that statistical battle? Both DS Penske's making their way through. Super impressive performance from that outfit after a bit of a wilderness year in Season 9. First time for Gen 3, but now they seem to really get in their act together at the beginning of Season 10. And you can see this super slow-mo here of Stoppel van Dorn, the 2022 champion, just making his way through, as well as Jean-Eric Verne. These super slow-mos here, Dario, just showing how much the car is moving, going through the right-hander and the left-hander. They're soaring away at the wheel.
Yeah, it shows the correction of the driver. The driver's trying to keep the car on the trajectory they're on. The whole thing's sliding, and he's just correcting ever so slightly to keep the forward momentum and not screw up the front or the rear. It's lovely to see it, and then watch the drivers eye as they move the head about to look through the through the next corner.
So Group B qualifying then, we've got Nick Cassidy, Jake Dennis, Sebastian Buemi, Sam Bird, Jake Hughes, Sergio Sette Camara, who put in a great performance yesterday to get fourth, Ollie Rowland in the mix there, as well as Edo Mortara, Johan de Ruvela, you've got Nico Muller and Lucas de Grassi. Now you would expect the likes of Jake Dennis, Nick Cassidy and possibly Sergio Sette Camara to spring a few surprises in, given the ERT drivers' pace so far this weekend. But this is going to be a really exciting session. Now, as the drivers make their way out onto the track for the start of Group B qualifying, obviously we've just had Group A. How do you think that's going to benefit, hinder the drivers that are going out onto the circuit now?
Well, we saw Sasha Fenestras giving some information back to his teammate. Whether every team works that closely, I'm not sure, but they've seen what the lap times are. That gives them some idea of what sort of level of grip to expect. Me, if I was in that Group B, I wouldn't have actually even watched the first group. I would just be like focusing on maximising what I had at hand with the car, with the track conditions, and trying to maximise. I always found if you focus too much on what other people were doing, you very much got distracted. But again, each person's a little bit different.
Yeah, track is looking pretty okay out there so far in terms of the condition, and indeed in terms of the pace there as well. You've got the two Neon McLarens line astern with one another. Super impressive performance, just to highlight Sam Bird yesterday. Really got his nose stuck in, and in a race where we saw long continuous trains of cars, Bird seemed to be a bit of an exception to the rule.
Yeah, he did. He maximised everything he could yesterday, and he had a good finish at P4, so that was nice for him. A new team in McLaren. He's got to keep the boss happy there, Ian James.
Yeah, fourth place it was for Bird. He was disappointed to miss out on the podium, but he started 9th on the grid, so super impressive from the Formula E veteran. Inside the ERT garage, Alex Way, the team principal on the right-hand side, Russell O'Hagan, the chief operating officer of ERT just to the left of him.
He'll be hoping for some more
Track
heroics
position
today.
looks really good at the moment, mate. Track position, very good.
Yeah, it's not bad at all there for Jake Dennis. So I say that, he's just going to get caught behind Sette Camara.
Come on, boys, what film are you watching there?
So coming through in towards the first corner for Dennis at the moment. Max Günther, he'll be disappointed with that, out in Group A qualifying. He's been the standout performer for Maserati. Of course, de Ruvela on the other side is a rookie. You can't really compare him in terms of experience, but despite what's been going on in the off-season for Maserati, a lot of personnel changes, a lot of disruption. Günther just seems to be getting his head down, getting on with the job, and it's a real disappointment for him to not get through into the duels.
Absolutely right, and de Ruvela had his P13 this morning, so that was a lot better from him. Again, the only rookie in the field, so he's really up against it, just trying to learn and trying to catch up with all these veterans.
So Nico Muller in the Abt Cupra makes his way through 18 and 19 on the run in towards turn 20, turn 21. He's just going to get caught behind the McLaren here as he finds his way out of the final corner, goes across the timing line. Jake Hughes goes 4th fastest. Muller goes to the top of the pile with a 1:11.8. What about Sergio Sette Camara, standout performer from yesterday? A real surprise in Saudi. Down towards turn 21 he goes, fastest overall in the first sector, personal best in the second sector. Sette Camara going 2nd quickest, so not bad at all there for the Brazilian. That's a good banker lap time. What we're probably going to see from this is, I would imagine, exactly the same strategy as we saw in Group A, in that we'll see a first run, drivers will come in, do a tyre change, go out for one last banzai lap at the end.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, obviously the drivers get their eye in a bit, the track gets a bit better, but if your first lap, if your first set of tyres, your first time out on track is your best lap, then you're in trouble, because everything is going in your favour for that second run to do a faster lap time.
Man who's looking on the move at the moment is Oliver Rowland in the Nissan, really quick actually in free practice 3 this morning, 4th fastest in the Nissan. It looks like they could possibly be set to spring a few surprises. He's gone faster still in that second sector, so he's not hanging about at all at the moment. What about de Ruvela? Where can he go? 3rd quickest it is for the Indian driver, and Rowland goes to the top of the pile there by 600ths of a second over Jake Hughes. Nice lap time there for Rowland. Sam Bird 3rd fastest for the McLaren driver as well at this early stage in the session. What about Jake Dennis? Do you think there's a bit more pressure on his shoulders now there's an expectation of having taken the victory yesterday, or was it?
Nah. I mean, he's the current world champion. No more pressure. I would actually have worried and been concerned over the winter that his motivation would have gone away, but absolutely has not. And it was a masterclass yesterday. So he's a cool customer, isn't he? See Sebastian Buemi now coming over there. P3.
Yeah, lovely stuff there for Sebastian Buemi to get himself up into the duels for the time being. Cassidy only 7th fastest on his first banker lap time there, so a bit of work to do for the Kiwi. He's just seen his teammate Mitch Evans not progress forwards as well. What about Jehan Daruvula? It's interesting, isn't it, how the tables can turn so quickly in Formula E terms.
Yes.
Because Mitch Evans making it through to the duels yesterday in the fight for pole position, and it was one of the closest duels that we've seen in a very long time as Daruvula improves up to 3rd. And then 24 hours later, he's out of qualifying.
Yeah, but think about, Tom, we talk about thousandths of a second, the difference between success and failure. So yeah, things are going to move quickly as we see Jake Dennis coming up straight up the steep hill. Now he's going to pick his braking point for 18. It's quite relaxed in there, didn't it?
Yeah, not so bad. We've seen a few drivers exploring the limits on the outside of turn 19.
I was going to say he's backed off.
Yeah, he was going to come into the pit lane and just get a new set of boots on his car, go out for another run in this session. And this is exactly what we saw, of course, in Group A. There's Norman Natto on the other side of the garage. Sete camera comes down this back straight. This is one of the best and real only overtaking opportunities here at this circuit. As we ride on board now with the Brazilian driver, see him feeding the steering wheel through 18 and 19. Fair bit of lock in that left.
We can hope that it's really cleaned up from yesterday. That's really because it was so dirty offline last night, which we saw with Mitch Evans' heroics, but Sete Camera only up to P6.
Yeah, Sete Camera with a little bit of work to do. Let's see what he is going to be able to muster up in the final 5 minutes of this Group B qualifying session.
What impressed me most about him yesterday, a lot of people were sliding the car out a lot, probably just getting over. But too much oversteer. Sete Camera was so smooth and managed to keep the car pointing straight. He was finding grip and he was so smooth in places that maybe others weren't. And that's how he maximised that lap time.
Don't forget of the Formula E predictor as well. You can vote for who you think is going to progress forwards in the dual stages. You can also download the Formula E app and listen to team radio of every driver on the Formula E grid. Just make sure if it's Dan Tixon's one that there aren't any young children
less
around.
than a tenth into the duel, so we just need a clean lap. 11.2. Good improvement on both sectors on the way in. Yeah, but good improvement on both sectors on the way in. Any support?
Not really. Just still same sort of issues, mate.
So Dennis clearly not happy then with the balance of his car. He was complaining in practice actually that it was a bit all over the place in turn 19, the left-hander in that chicane. Clearly still looking, I want to say on the back foot. That's a bit early to say that at this particular point, but not as confident as you'd like to be at this stage.
Doesn't sound confident, does he, at this point? But with him, yeah, he'll stay calm and he'll maximise it in this next lap. That is obviously absolutely key.
Yep, so Sebastian Buemi ready to go out for his final run in this session. Currently you've got Roland Hughes and Sam Bird out on track, so the two McLarens working together, not in terms of where they are on the circuit, I should add, but in terms of I'm sure how they're going to set things up in the final stages of this one.
Yeah, James looks stressed today.
Does a little bit, doesn't he? Yeah, well, we know that Jake Hughes is pretty handy around the Diriyah circuit. I mean, he took his first pole position this time last year.
Sam Bird's had a bit of success here too.
Yeah, not bad at all for Bird. He won back in 2019 and also in 2021 as well, so two-time winner for the Briton. As we watch Hughes coming over the timing line, see what he is going to be able to. Sorry, that's Sam Bird rather coming over the timing line down towards the first corner. No, it was in fact Hughes. I do apologise. I'll correct myself and correct myself again. But let's see what the McLarens are going to be able to do in this session. This sort of drone shot here gives a real idea of how much the car's moving underneath you, and Bird and Hughes there harrying the McLaren.
Yeah, a little bit light in rear grip to that middle point of the corner, and if that's helping to turn the car, that's good, but if that's making him over slow, then not ideal. We see on board again another correction. Looks down at his dash, we're looking at his delta time. It tells him if he's up or down compared to his best lap. Heavily on the brakes into 18.
Oh, look at that, he's running on though. Sam Bird, unfortunately. And
Sam Bird is up.
Yeah.
Sam Bird is looking good.
Sorry, Hughes runs it off, doesn't he? So that lap comes to nothing. Sam Bird, as we run on board with him. Yeah, that is on board with Bird, isn't it? Yeah, so my apologies. A bit of confusion in the comms box. Bird throws the lap away.
I went long. Got the sun in my eyes, went long. Sorry.
Yeah, so Bird throwing the lap away then, unfortunately, and disappointment for him. He's got a couple of minutes of redemption then here in the closing stages of this session, and Ian James, slight wipe of the brow, I'm sure, as he hopes that both of his cars are going to make it through. So this is what happened. He's going in towards turn 18 and 19. I think he's just going to go a bit too long on the brakes here, isn't he? And a bit of instability on the rear.
Yeah, you can see he started, the back of the car started coming around to the left, and that just shows it's almost locking up. You think, well, why hasn't it locked up? Well, the clever systems in the car don't really allow it to lock up, but they also grip. There's only so much grip out there, and he was over the grip of the tyre and the braking.
Yeah, so let's see what Bird is going to be able to do in the final couple of moments of this session. Here is Nick Cassidy, just in his teammate, not progressed forward, currently down in 10th place is Cassidy, building himself up for another run in this session, and what will be his only lap time in this one.
Got a bit of traffic as well. You saw him weaving around, trying to build some heat coming up the straight into turn 18.
Yeah, that's Sebastian Buemi who's just in front of him, so now both those drivers do bolt out of the final corner. We ride on board here with Buemi as he comes down in towards T1. Nice and clean through there for the Envision driver at the moment, through the right-hander, over the crest of the hill. One thing you don't get to see is just the elevation changes of this circuit with these cameras. It does sort of remove that, but you can see just how blind it is, especially with his onboard shots.
They're just trying to keep momentum then all the way down the hill. It's just going into 11, 12, 13 now, the left-hander. Big bump here, there you go. Braking for 14.
Through the right-hander there for Buemi, looking nice and okay for the time being. Keep an eye on Nick Cassidy as well. You can see him in the bottom right-hand corner of your picture. Diriyah goes fastest overall in the first sector. Sets of cameras on a personal best. Cassidy on a personal best here as well. So this is looking okay. Likewise for Buemi. His fourth fastest at the moment is the Swiss driver, Season 2 champion.
It was neat and tidy through 18. Whether it was quick or not, that's the big question. A little snap of oversteer again. It's a tidy lap, but it's difficult to see the actual pace. Coming to the last corner now, got to the apex, back to the throttle.
Yeah, he's improved in time, goes just under half a second faster. Cassidy improves as well, second quickest for...
Someone's hit the wall, I think.
Yep, I wonder whether we've got an incident then. Let's have a look, yellow flag is out. Turn 3, so that's the opening of the lap, and if anyone's on a fast one, they're going to be really balked. Buemi's going to be out.
Buemi hit it.
So Buemi hits the wall, and the red flag has come out then on the final flying lap. Oh, Sebastian, what have you done? Unfortunately, he's hit the wall. That brings an early end to his session, and it brings an early end to everybody else's session as well. With just a couple of seconds left to go in terms of the flying laps for some of the drivers. The checkered flag had already come out.
I think he crossed the line. He was about a second ahead of the checkered flag.
So that was a lost damage there. Yeah, it's a lost chance to win. There's going to be a fair bit of repair work here for Envision to do as well.
What they're going to watch is if the suspension has come back, if that tyre has hit the tub hard enough, it will break the tub, and then that requires a full car change. And the race is coming up pretty close.
Well, that's a survival cell change, isn't it? And we saw that happen for Jake Hughes, didn't we, back in Mexico in free practice 1. Fortunately, he had the grace of time on his side, but there's not a very long window here. I have to say, on the other side, it has given an opportunity for this man, Jehan Diriyah, his teammate in the Maserati, Max Günther, missing out in Group A qualifying, and Diriyah, he was on the bubble in 4th place, put in a really strong lap time towards the closing stages of that session, and by the grace of that red flag potentially, it does mean that he makes it through.
Man, completely missed my braking. Man, completely missed it.
Yeah, we didn't tell you what the beep was censoring there, but frustration quite clearly for Buemi, and an open-faced expression for team principal Sylvain Filippi as well. A lot of work for him and his team to do prior to the race tonight. So then, it does mean that we'll have Oliver Rowland, Nick Cassidy, Jake Hughes and Jehan Diriyah as the 4 drivers that progress forward into the duels.
I think Cassidy's the only one I would have picked out of those guys.
Jake Dennis, crucially, is out as well. That is a very important point. Jake Dennis does not make it through, and disappointment for the reigning world champion. You can see a shake of the head, and the body language says it all. He's kept his helmet on as he walks down the pit lane. The universal language for a racing driver to say, I don't want to talk to anybody right now.
Yeah, he's just jumped out of the car too. He's got to go and get weighed, come back.
Frustration, quite clearly.
Massive frustration.
Quite clearly,
nothing he could do.
Yeah, there's a disappointment for Dennis. And unfortunately for Sebastian Buemi, likewise as well, to end qualifying in the wall. Messed up his braking. Let's piece together what happened here, Dario. So we're coming driver's eye view out of the final corner, across the timing line.
So the snaps of oversteer. Oh, just locked the rears, it looked like. You saw him correcting, you saw the steering coming to the right. That's him correcting the slide from back. No, just massively too quick.
Moved the barrier, didn't he, with the impact there, just on the outside of the corner.
You see, you've got the Tech Pro barrier, that's that grey part filled with styrofoam. And then there's the concrete wall as well.
This would be a good view, yeah, it locks the rears and then straight to the scene of the accident thereafter. It's a heavy old hit that. Just took his hands off the wheel in time. Fortunately didn't wrench it the other way. But that is such a shame for Buemi. He's out of qualifying, and now the team have got a lot of work to do to get that car race ready for round 3 of the Diriyah E-Prix tonight. Bit of a debrief now with his engineers and the team. Let's have a look at some of the damage here, Dario.
Yeah, that's the left side. That'll be okay. It's the other side. It's the critical area, the right side, and whether it's, as I say, creased the tub or broken the tub, the cell that the driver sits in, because if that's happened, then it's a big problem.
Yeah, well, let's have a look then at the results, shall we? From Group B, it's Ollie Rowland, Nick Cassidy, Jake Hughes and Jehan Daruvula, the rookie, that make it through. We say goodbye to Buemi, Camera, Sam Bird, Jake Dennis, the reigning world champion, Muller, Mortara and Lucas de Grassi do not make the cut. Huge drama at the end of Group B qualifying, setting us up an absolute treat for the duels coming up in just a few moments' time. Let's see what's going to happen. Well, drama in the desert then. Exactly what we like to see. Not for Sebastian Buemi. Thankfully he's out of the car and all okay after that incident at the end of group qualifying. But yeah, as I said, a fair bit of work to do for Envision.
I think a thing we haven't mentioned yet, Nissan quickest in both groups.
Yeah, really impressive stuff from Oliver Rowland and from his teammate Sasha Fenestraz. Good qualifying pace as Jake Hughes also walks down pit lane. All the drivers now walking down there to get weighed. They have to do that at the end of every session. But the body language speaks a thousand words.
Just put his visor down, just leave me alone. I mean, yeah, this is difficult enough without you know, being affected by that outside factor so much. But you know, Buemi didn't want to do that. He's just that's the gamble that everybody takes.
Yeah, it's really unfortunate there for Buemi, but the mark of a great sportsman, as all of these drivers are, is to be able to move forwards and put those incidents behind you. Here's a view of it unfolding in the Envision garage. And, well, there you can see disappointment, unfortunately, within that team. At the end to their qualifying session, Buemi and Dennis missing out. Two drivers who are on the podium in Mexico City. Or they're fighting for the podium, I should say. Lucas de Grassi also being disappointed with that. The Abs Cupra returned to that team for 2024. And unfortunately, it's not been a particularly fortuitous one. Straight in there, very hard whack, wasn't it?
There's not even a hope of making the corner. Second push lap, tyres might have been, you know, out with their window, but the rate of impact would say that he was just so much beyond the limit of car and tyre.
Yeah, there's the damage that you can see. So you can see the car now back in the garage, and you can see the damage on the car, and you can see the damage it's done for Buemi as well. And Nikki down there trying to get a quick word in.
She's brave.
She is.
But great for Jehan Daruvula there, fantastic. He made progress this morning, and that's a big boost for his confidence.
Yeah, first time in the duels, if nothing else, it'll be a good experience for him. Let's see whether he's going to have the pace to try and bring it forwards. Sam Bird, we saw him with disappointment of the body language, and also Jake Hughes as well, still sat there with his helmet on during the debrief also. So this is going to be interesting for the quarterfinals of the duels, which will be along the way in just a couple of moments' time here in Diriyah.
Well, that's Groups A and Group B done. I mean, Karoom, wow. I mean, that was some drama from Group B there.
Yeah, I mean, big surprises. It's funny, Andre Lotra was just saying to me, you know what, we've not had any accidents here in the last day and a half.
Yeah.
And literally about a minute later, we saw Bohemian in the wall. Going to the quarterfinals, we got, you know, it's a great opportunity for DS Penske. They obviously didn't get the win. They had pole yesterday, didn't get the win, but they got both cars into the duels. No Porsche cars in the duels. No Andretti cars in the duels either, and only one Jaguar.
I mean, the big name from obviously Group B, Jake Dennis. He's out. He's not going to make it into the duels. I mean, that's huge news, no?
Yeah, I mean, we could see it because actually he was on his lap here. He was on a really, really good lap at the moment, and I think it would have been good enough. But just watch his hands here. He's coming out of 70. There, the yellow light comes on the dashboard, and at this point here, he knows he's got to abort the lap, and you could just see his body language here, sort of hand on top of the wheel, little punch.
Fuming.
Disappointed because I think he had obviously the potential speed to get through.
Yeah.
But this is a risk in Formula E. We talked about it yesterday, didn't we? That risk was a reward. Yeah. If you leave it until the last lap,
that's what can happen.
That's what can happen. Yes, the track's going to be faster, and it's going to be better, but that can happen. And yeah, he got caught out.
Well, let's get his thoughts, shall we? Because he is with Nicky.
Jake Dennis, obviously huge knock-on effects with the red flag in that session.
I mean, it didn't make any difference. I was driving possibly the worst car I've ever driven in Formula E. I don't know how we made it so bad overnight. Yeah, I wasn't even up, I don't think, so it's probably a good thing the red flag came out because I was going to get jumped from the cars behind me, so yeah, absolute disaster for the team. I think we're both. Norman was last. I'm at the back. Yeah, absolute mess.
Okay, thanks very much, Jake Dennis there, obviously feeling rather frustrated with the performance of his car during that quali session.
That is remarkable.
Well, he's sort of contradicted what I said there because I think he was up on himself on a personal best, but he clearly has seen the data and information which we haven't got from his competitors and thought, well, actually, he's lucky the others didn't finish because they would have beaten him. So, yeah, remarkable turnaround. But it shows how small the margins are in FE. You know, Nato, he mentioned that his teammate, second last in Group A, but only 7/10 covering that entire group.
But also, how does that happen? He won the race yesterday. How is it all of a sudden now that Jake Dennis is walking out saying that's possibly the worst car I've driven in Formula E?
If you had the answer to that, Andretti would hire you to set the car up for the afternoon. I think they look lost, don't they?
They do look lost. I mean, is there anybody else out there that you're thinking, you know, is either looking a little bit lost or, you know, we're going to be struggling going into the race?
I think we just have to see what happens with the race, but I think we've got to give a shout out to Jehan Daruvala because a rookie got himself into the duels for the first time, and I think that's a great bounce back from yesterday struggling a little bit there.
Yeah, it's going to be a great experience for Jehan Daruvala. Well, the quarterfinals are on the way, so let's go and rejoin our commentary team of Tom and Dario to talk us through it all.
So then, both of the group stages of qualifying are done and dusted. We now move into the duels for round 3 of the 2024 ABB FIA Formula E World Championship. We will see 2 drivers going head-to-head 4 times. They'll go through into the semi-finals. We'll have 2 lots of 2 drivers going head-to-head, and then we'll have 2 drivers head-to-head for the finals. I think I've probably explained that in the most convoluted and complicated way possible. But what is going to happen is we're going to have Jean-Eric Vergne and Robin Freitz going head-to-head first of all, and then Sasha Fenestraz versus Stoffel van Dorn. Here are some highlights from the group qualifying session. This man here, Jehan Daruvala, the rookie in his 2nd weekend of Formula E, Dario, makes it into the duels.
Yeah, absolutely. He made a lot of progress. He's Jake Hughes in the McLaren. He's through as well.
Yeah, it's been a good time for Jake Hughes on the other side of the garage. Sam Bird not making it forwards. Nick Cassidy, be keen to see what he can do.
Yeah, and he's going to be feeling good about that. Most of the guys he was fighting it out with yesterday, not in the duel, so he's got a bit of an advantage there. But this man, Oliver Rowland, that was a good lap and a good 2 sessions for Nissan, quickest in both sessions. So that'll make them feel a lot better about things.
Well, there is a very realistic possibility if both Nissans do progress forward that we may see them going head-to-head against one another. We'll wait and see exactly how that works out. Crucially, both Porsches out of qualifying in the group stages, and likewise Mitch Evans as well. Let's go down to Nicky before we get this session underway and catch up and find out the latest about the Porsche story and why they are so off the pace at the moment.
Motorsport. Joining me now is the team principal at Porsche, Florian Modlinger. Probably didn't go quite to plan. Neither of your drivers are into the duel phases. Did you have any feedback from the drivers during that session?
Yeah, we are in constant communication with the driver. You saw Pascal on P5 missing the duels by 1/10, and you see how incredibly tight this group was, a very strong group. And from P2 to P7 was 2/10. Mitch also out. Pascal did a good lap, but was not enough. 1/10 missing. On Antonio, he struggled single lap performance this weekend, and there we have to work on.
What's going on with Antonio Felix Costa at the moment? You know, he's a former champ, but things not quite going his way at the moment.
Yeah, he has at the moment not the confidence to deliver in one single lap, and especially here with this tight walls and we have very narrow track. You need the confidence to attack, and he struggles at the moment.
All right, thanks very much. Well, good luck for the rest of the day. Florian Modlinger.
Yeah, thanks, Nikki. Thanks to Florian Modlinger as well. Work to do for Porsche in the race. It's going to be an uphill task, though, let's be honest, because we know that this track is not particularly famed for its overtaking opportunities. If the race is anything like we saw yesterday, we're going to get a big train of cars forming behind one another. Anyway, let's shift our focus then to the quarterfinals, because Jean-Eric Byrne, the pole sitter from round 2 yesterday, going head-to-head with Robin Freund. Stoffel Van Dorn and Sasha Fenestraz will face off with one another. Then it will be Jake Hughes and Nick Cassidy, McLaren versus Jaguar, and then Jehan Daruvula in his second Formula E weekend will go head-to-head with Oliver Rowland. Any standouts in that one that you're looking forward to seeing, Dario?
Wow, I'm thinking Cassidy and Jev for the final. I think those are the ones that, but I'd have lost a lot of money this morning on the group stages, so it's just so unpredictable.
Yeah, Jake Hughes there now back in the car after just debriefing with his team very briefly. Don't forget about the Formula E predictor as well. Slight delay to this duel session as well, whilst I just do a couple of on-track repairs following the crash for Buemi after the group stages. The good thing is, of course, that as we saw, Seb was out of the car and all okay. Formula E predictor as well. Don't forget that you can get involved in the conversation.
I'm just thinking I'd be really bad at that. It's not a good thing, is it? See Sasha Fenestraz doing a bit of stretching, getting ready.
I was going to say, if you had a fiver on Nissan at the start of the day, you'd be quids in, as it stands for now, because those Nissans have looked really good in the cooler conditions that we've had here this afternoon.
Yeah, what has changed so much that the Andretti cars have gone from being just dominant yesterday, especially with Jake Dennis, he said the worst car he's driven in Formula E. The margins are so tiny, and as I think it was Karun said, if you figure that out, teams will pay a lot of money.
That's a very good point. What about Robin Freund as well? Good to see him back in the duels, and he's got a bit of a bet with Saunders at the moment, saying that if he makes it into the first 6 duels of the season, that he'll be a happy man, and he does do that. Made it into duels in the first 3 races now for 2024. This is Buemi's incident once again. This is what brought out the red flag at the end of Group B qualifying. Down in towards T1, locks the rears, and straight to the scene of the crash.
It's a very odd one, isn't it? He seems to brake within a reasonable amount of time, but in the last half of the braking zone, there's just no deacceleration. Interesting thing, I wonder if they could have handled that under yellow, because everybody was coming round. He was the last car to cross the line before the checkered came out. So everybody possibly could have finished their lap, I'm sure, but it's easy to say that sitting here. I'm not responsible for the 11 cars that were on track.
Well, you can see the disappointment there for the body language of Sebastian Buemi. Fortunately, Nicky on the ground managed to grab a quick word with him as he was walking down the pit lane at the end of the session.
See Leon Price looking at the tub.
Yeah, basically got told when I was about to hit the brakes that we should keep pushing because I didn't cross yet the checkout. And basically when I was about to hit the brakes, yeah, someone came on the radio and basically misjudged the braking afterwards.
All right. Thanks for talking to us. Hope the car gets fixed for the race.
He said he misjudged the braking.
Yeah.
Interesting. I mean, it clearly was going way too quick at the end of the braking zone, but for him just to say, yeah, my mistake. It's a big mistake.
It is, yeah. We just saw Bleach Blomberg there, as I'm going to be referring to him over the course of this weekend now, because he's got a brand new hairstyle, and well, to be honest, it could probably illuminate this Diriyah E-Prix circuit all on its own if we had a light outage. There's Sasha Fenestraz. a French-Argentine driver making it into the duels. This is going to be really exciting to see how he fares as well. This is the first time actually that we'll have seen Nissan in the duel stages during the 2024 season.
Yeah, Oliver Rowland back with the Nissan that he came into Formula E with, and his rookie year he was a qualifying machine. It was worth the price of admission just to watch an Oliver Rowland qualifying lap. So great to see him back in the duels, and we'll see what he can do. See, it doesn't look like they're replacing the tub. It looks like they're going to replace the corner, the right front corner. Think of crashing a lot of cars in your career. You can kind of see the body language of the mechanics and know what they're looking at, they're trying to fix.
Wealth of experience that you picked up there, Diriyah.
Yeah, not the experience I would generally want, but it had to come in handy at some point, didn't it?
Well,
excuse me.
All's well that ends well, hey, at least. So, inside the DS Penske garage, making it through. So, we've got the two DS Penskes, we've got the two Nissans, the only two teams that have got both cars through into the duels.
Yeah, we didn't really talk about DS Penske, have we? And Pole City yesterday, Jean-Eric Vergne. So, yeah, all to play for with those boys. They've clearly made some progress over the winter. Let's see what we can do, because with all the other sort of guys that he was fighting against yesterday out of the duels, this is good stuff for Jean-Eric Vergne.
Here's the boy from Barnsley. Of course, Oliver Rowland returning to Nissan, as Dario said, split with Mahindra midway through last year, and the Steely Blue Eyes are back in the cockpit once again for season 10 of the ABB FIA Formula E World Championship. Back home with this, and a team that he knows well, a team that he's got synergy with, and obviously seems to be going quite nicely in these initial stages.
Yeah, absolutely right. You've got to feel comfortable with the group around you. You've got to feel that they believe in you, and clearly the Nissan guys do believe in Oliver Rowland, and they didn't have the shiniest of season last year. Nissan, certainly Oliver Rowland, as you say, with Mahindra, they split halfway through the season, so nice to see them all back together, and looking good today.
Just getting himself ready to get into the car. It's a very intimate process, actually, getting yourself into a race car. You've got to have a good relationship with your chief mechanic.
Yeah, your front-end mechanic there. You become very close, shall we say, as he straps you into the car.
Unfortunately, the Tech Pro repair is taking a little longer than we thought. We will not start at 16:10. Just stand by, and we'll give you a new updated time. Apologies for the delay.
So that's the voice of Scott Elkin, race director, that you'll have just heard, saying that we're not going to be getting this session underway at 16:10, which is in just under a minute or so's time. Looks like there's going to be a slight delay because of the Tech Pro barrier repair.
Going back to getting in the car, each driver does it in their own little way. Slightly different. And
did you ever have a superstition, like getting in from a certain side of the car, or putting
I
it?
used to say it wasn't superstitious. I used to call it a brain trigger, but yeah, it was superstitious. Absolutely. Yeah, and you get into this rhythm with it, and it does get your brain. Certainly got my brain into gear and ready to go to work.
It's interesting though, isn't it, that you see some drivers that have got certain superstitions. They put a certain glove on first, or they'll put one leg into the race suit first of all, something like that.
Yeah, who would do such a thing? We had one guy, once he got in the car, if somebody touched him once he was strapped in the car, he had to get out and do it all again.
Oh, goodness.
Yeah,
that sounds...
guess what we did.
That wouldn't work at Le Mans, for example.
No, exactly right. But this is the thing, when you do sports car races, they basically throw you in the car as quickly as possible. So all these intricate ways of getting in, and these things that you did, they're all out the window.
Well, somebody at Envision looks like they're about to do the third act from Singing in the Rain here, just in front of Robin Frientz's car.
Yeah, just blocking the sun. The sun is getting low in the sky. It's already 4:10 here in the afternoon.
Yeah, Frientz, good to see the Dutchman back in Formula E, and back at the sharp end as well. And by that I mean because, of course, Abt Cupra last year for him wasn't a brilliant season by any stretch of the imagination. Not necessarily just for Frientz, but also for Abt Cupra as well. They had a bit of a shocker, and Frientz, of course, broke his hand in Mexico City, was out for the first few rounds of the season. Had one standout performance, which was Berlin, where he managed to get on pole position in the wet conditions. Thereafter, nothing really to write home about, so he'll be happy to be fighting up the sharper end of the field again.
Absolutely. He had a crash in Mexico City, but 10th yesterday, got his first point.
Inside the McLaren garage here, looking at Jake Hughes, ready to go out on track, but also, so is Nikki down on the ground. Who have you found, Nikki?
I have found Sam Bird, who did a phenomenal job yesterday. Started in P9, climbed your way up to P4. Great result for you and the team.
Amazing result for the team. Really pleased with the efforts of everybody here. and yeah, chomping at the bit to get going again racing today.
So how tough is it going to be, though, to repeat that performance? Not made it through to the duels.
Why couldn't they have just held on 4 more seconds? 4 seconds, and then they could have put the red flag out, because our lap was good enough for P2, P3, but they threw the red flag, and that's us out of contention, unfortunately. But the good news is that the work that I did with Laney and Stefan, my data engineer, we've improved the car, and we made the car, I thought, the best it's felt all weekend for that qualifying. It's just unfortunate and circumstances outside of our control that stopped us progressing. But the work we're doing is great. So that's the most important thing.
Brilliant. Well, that's great to hear, because we were talking to Jake Dennis earlier, and, you know, having won the race yesterday, he's now saying it's the worst car he's ever driven in Formula E.
Oh, it's got to be a tough car. That Porsche must be so difficult to drive. My heart is bleeding for him. No, but his drive yesterday was epic, wasn't it? Almost as epic as your jacket.
What are you saying about my jacket? It's matching your papaya. Hello?
Look, all I'm saying
is that why you've got your sunglasses on?
Look, Joseph called me. He wants his Technicolor Dreamcoat back. That's it.
Okay, well, on that note then, thanks so much, Sam Bird, with the bright blonde peroxide hair. Goodbye. Let's go and have a chat with Andre. Thanks for joining us. So Sam seems very upbeat, which for Sam Bird is quite unusual.
Well, he's happy about the progress, you know, that's always positive, and it's at the beginning of the season, so if you can carry these improvements into the season, that's it's an upbeat feeling.
Good, good. What are your thoughts on the delays to this session? You know, we can see here Jake Hughes, he's in his car, he's ready to go, he wants to get going in the quarterfinals, but he's just made to sit in the car. Does that affect your mentality, or not so bothered?
Not so bothered, you know. I think it's not as upsetting as for the other drivers who couldn't finish the group quali, which was a bit of a shame because the red flag came after the checkered flag and it ruined a few drivers' attempt. But he's through, and if you see the Nissan powertrain improved quite well today because McLaren is using obviously the same powertrain, and both Nissans were first in Group A and Group B, so interesting.
Yeah, now obviously as an expert in Formula E, Jehan Diriyah is going to be his first quarterfinals. What advice would you give to him if you were his driver coach on, you know, basically getting the maximum out of the car, but not pushing it too hard that you end up in the wall?
Well, I bet he feels like he already achieved a lot more than he expected. So for him, it's already all plus, you know, and whatever happens now, he knows he's not going to start worse than P8. So, you know, yeah, he can relax and he can just enjoy the ride and build on his confidence and, yeah, get part of the Formula E good drivers.
Yeah, well, yeah, and the experience getting your head around qualifying, of course, because it is so difficult to obviously, you know, in most championships, you might have to get your qualifying lap perfect once, but here you've got to do it 4 times over. You've got to do it in the group stages, the quarters, the semis, and then the final to get yourself on pole position.
Yeah, it is really tricky, and also, as you saw in the group, not many drivers who did well yesterday were able to do well today. So, you know, it's really, really tricky to get the lap right. You know, Mitch Evans was really good on one lap, but he didn't manage. So the only ones who were really consistent were Jev, he's in there, Cassidy is in there. So good operation for them, and let's see how they get on in the duels. So, I mean, it's always a good feeling when you're in the duels because,
yeah,
you know, even if you mess it up, you're not in a bad starting position.
Excellent. Well, in a way, I think that red flag has definitely mixed things up for today's race. Now we are moments away from the quarters starting. Back to commentary.
Can't wait for this one then, after a delay to proceedings then following a crash for Sebastian Buemi as the Envision team get that car hastily repaired. We shift our attention over to the first of the quarter-final duels. This is going to be a hugely exciting affair, as we're expecting. Jean-Eric Verne versus Robin Freund, DS Penske versus Envision. 85% of you think it will go the way of the pole sitter from yesterday.
Okay.
That's not a bad statistic.
Yeah, I would have said more 70-30, would have been me, but again, we've proven that I'm pretty useless at the predictor.
Interestingly, we've got no Porsche powertrains into these duels as well. Both the Andretti's out, both the factory Porsches were out in the group stages qualifying also. And as such, it is going to be a straight fight. We've got DS powertrain versus Jaguar here in the first one. As Verne makes his way on to the Diriyah E-Prix circuit then, as the sun now begins to get a little bit lower in the sky, and those shadows get a little bit longer too.
Yeah, that can make some shadows in the circuit. You see the bright light as the sun's right in the driver's eye, then it goes into shadow a little bit. But this is the first time they've run at 350 kilowatts of power. The added a bunch of power between the groups and the duels, so track will feel a lot different again. And let's see who can master between these two, Robin Freins, Jean-Eric Vergne. This one's going to be good, I think.
Yeah, I'm keen to see what Verne's going to be able to do. Not that I want to jump the gun too much here, but the last time he took back-to-back poles was back in Berlin in 2020, so 3.5 years or so ago. Freins hasn't qualified higher than 7th in a dry qualifying session since Seoul 2022. Of course, he took pole in Berlin last year, but that was in wet conditions. So whatever happens here for Freins, it will be a welcome result nonetheless. See the drivers now going down the back straight. So dual qualifying, if you are new to Formula E, first of all, welcome along. It is fantastic to have your company. We get 2 drivers going head-to-head on the circuit, maximum of 350 kilowatts of power underneath their right foot. So that's 50 kilowatts more than we have in the group stages. And only 1 out of the 2 drivers that's on track will go forwards into the next stages of the duels. So Jeff making his way around the final corner and across the timing line to begin his flying lap then. In towards the first corner, looking nice and okay there so far. Nice and neat and tidy as we begin the toboggan run through turns 4 all the way to turn 14.
See Robin Freins do the same thing. You notice how he didn't go too far out of turn 1. See Jeff a bit further down the lap. Almost neck and neck at this point. You see the timing difference over to the left of the screen. Freins making a small advantage.
Yeah, just building it up a little bit more now is Freins. Let's see whether he can continue that advantage. Slightly faster he was in the first sector. And Vergne still very much in touching distance, less than a 1/10 of a second in it at this stage. Look how hard he's pushing the car, sliding his way through as he gets to try an aim out of turn 17. This is important. Traction out of here all the way down this back straight.
Yeah, I have to say, Vergne was a little bit wide out of turn 14. Over the bumps into 18, but the dampers look really good. The suspension, the car didn't really seem to see the bumps nearly as much as we've seen some of the other cars over the course of the last 2 days.
So just a couple of corners then remaining for Jean-Eric Vergne. What is the lap time going to be for him as he comes around the final corner and he goes across the timing line? It's a 1:11.1, but Robin Freins looking faster still. 2.5 tenths he was up going into the third sector. Is he going to knock out Jean-Eric Vergne in the quarterfinals? He is. It's a 1:10.885 for Robin Freins. It is in vision ahead of DS Penske.
This is the most topsy-turvy session, is it not?
Just if you had a form book written down for yesterday, rip it up and throw it in the bin, because it is all completely turned on its head. And Robin Freins is the first of the drivers in the quarterfinals to make it into the semis, and crucially knocks out yesterday's pole sitter, Jean-Eric Vergne. How about that? Freins there, you can see him wrestling away at the steering wheel, but he just looks nice and calm. And crucially here, Dario, traction out of 17 was absolutely mustard.
You can see he's got almost too much lock in the car through the start of the corner, but then as he goes to the throttle, the steering goes quickly to flat again and then corrects the slide.
Now over to quarterfinal 2 then. Stoffel Vandoorne versus Sacha Fenestraz. A lot closer on the predictor for this one. 55% of you think it'll go the way of the French-Argentine driver. 45% of you going for Stoffel Vandoorne. They're already on their flying lap, and let's see how this is going to work out. Vandoorne already through the first corner as Fenestraz now makes his way through.
So Fenestraz overdid turn 1 a bit.
Yeah, and Vandoorne now beginning to just push on. Car bottoming out over the bumps as he makes his run through. Fenestraz has dropped time though in this first sector.
Yeah, I think that was turn 1, Tom. I think he just overdid it on the entry. You could hear the chirping of the tyres.
So Fenestraz then is going to have a mother and father of all tasks. He's going to have to rely on Vandoorne to make a mistake here in this second quarter final in order to be able to progress forwards. Vandoorne exits turn 17, comes over the rise and down the back straight and get the braking point done. All he needs to do now is just drive the lap and hit all his markers, and he'll be progressing forward slightly deep, if anything, just into 18 there, but nothing too much to worry about. Otherwise, all okay for the Season 8 champion. Down in towards the final corner we go. What's the lap time going to be for Stoffel Vandoorne? It's a 1:10.5. The track is certainly getting faster. Fenestraz is catching, but nearly 7/10 of a second adrift is a tall order, even for the French-Argentine driver, as he now makes his way into the final corner, comes across the timing line, a 1:11, some half a second adrift of the Belgian.
Yeah, it was all over for Fenestraz at the first corner.
Well,
nice job though from Stoffel Vandoorne.
Yeah, something for DS Penske to smile about. Disappointment for Vergne a couple of moments ago, and delight on the other hand for the Belgian to make it through. That's a shame for Nissan as well, considering the pace they've had. have a look at some super slow-mos of his lap.
Again, look, watch as he starts to accelerate now on the power. And balance looked really nice from the DS Penske through turn 17. It wasn't the big understeer to the big snap of oversteer that we saw with some other cars.
Quarterfinal 3 then, Jake Hughes versus Nick Cassidy. 85% of you think it's going to go the way of Nick Cassidy in this one over the Neon McLaren. I might like to remind you that, of course, Jake was on pole position this time here last year, so don't count your chickens before they've hatched, so to speak.
Yeah, he's been a great addition to the series, hasn't he? That was his entry to the series, pole position here. And yeah, that was when people thought, Jake Hughes, the McLaren, and he absolutely has repaid all the faith that McLaren put in him.
Yeah, Nick Cassidy looking slightly faster in the first sort of mini sector as Hughes comes through over the rise. He's really been able to maximise the potential of that Neon McLaren, and he is really pushing on. Over one lap, Hughes has been incredibly impressive, but is it going to be enough to depose Cassidy, sliding the rear of the car there, coming into the right-hander? Put him slightly offline, if anything, and it's just allowed Cassidy to build on that minute advantage that he held. Through into the second sector we go, traction out of 17, nice and okay there for him. It's going to be close, this one here, Dario.
Yeah, absolutely right, just a tenth of a second between them, but you can see the track grip building up as Cassidy now pulls out to almost a quarter of a second advantage over Jake Hughes.
So into 18, through 19 we go. Just a couple more corners left for Hughes. Cassidy building on that advantage now up to some 0.4 of a second. Cassidy's car clearly looking that little bit more planted as he comes through the final sector. Hughes comes to the timing line. It's a 1:10.994 for him. Cassidy's over half a second faster as he wrestles the steering wheel in through the final corner. Across the line, it's a 1:10.385, 0.6 of a second. That's a demolition in the desert. Delight for James Barkley as well, with his other driver, Mitch Evans, going out in group qualifying. Something for Jaguar TCS Racing to smile about here. Disappointment, on the other hand, for Ian James of Neon McLaren. Cassidy just looking quite composed. Bit of a snap of oversteer going through that right-hander there, but otherwise, all okay.
Yeah, it's such a long corner, isn't it? And they're sliding most of the way around it. So, yeah, looked quite nice there. Well, certainly nice enough to get him into the next round.
So who will be facing Nick Cassidy in the semi-finals? Will it be Jehan Daruvala or will it be Oliver Rowland? Daruvala in only his second weekend of Formula E, going against the returning Rowland to Nissan. So Daruvala across the timing line, down in towards the first corner. This is a new experience for him, 350 kilowatts of power underneath your right foot, and whatever happens here, he's now got a duel under his belt.
Yeah, and the worst he can start is 8th, so he's got to be feeling good about things. That first step that he's made this afternoon, and yeah, as I say, he's an only rookie in the field, so it's been a lot to learn, and he's quicker right now than Oliver Rowland.
Yeah, Rowland, we know he's a bit of a qualifying specialist, but let's see whether he is going to be able to pull the maximum out of that car. Rowland pulling it back through the second half of that first sector. Daruvala
wide there from Daruvala in 14.
Yeah, slightly so. Rowland looking okay, but building on an advantage. Big snap of oversteer for Ollie Rowland going through the left there. Is it going to compromise his run? Well, he's still building on time. He is really leaving nothing on the table. What about Daruvala's run in towards turn 18? Is that going to be all okay? It looks nice and fine for now. Exit out of 17, not looking too bad for Ollie Rowland here as well. I'll tell you what, Daruvala's catching ever so slightly in this second sector here, Dario.
Daruvala's doing a heck of a job as he crosses the finish line. 10.7, that is probably not enough. You see that half a second advantage that Oliver Rowland's got now. Just no mistakes over these last couple of corners.
Yeah, Rowland's really pulled it out the bag in that second sector. Through the final corner he comes, aims for the timing line. What is it going to be for Rowland? It's a 10.1. That is a superb lap time for Oliver Rowland. That is the quickest that we have seen so far this weekend. And Rowland in the Nissan makes it through into the semis. He'll go head-to-head with Nick Cassidy in a couple of minutes, and we'll see Freins versus Van Dorn in the first of the semi-finals as well. Slight bit of tape on the visor there for Oliver Rowland. I'm assuming that's due to the sunlight.
Yeah, exactly. It's probably a last-minute change. You can see it's covering the Nissan up. He's probably jumped in the car and he's gone, guys, the sun's lower than we thought. Stick this bit of tape on, would you? So it's it just gives him some more I guess, less, what's the word? The sun's going to have less impact on him as he comes down the hill. Normally through turn 3-4 area.
Yeah, you can see it there, just harrying that Nissan through the right-hander. Lovely bit of driving from Oliver Rowland. to really make it count when it mattered. Traction out of that 17 corner. Absolutely beautiful, right up against the wall, brushing the advertising hoardings. Let's recap what happened in the quarterfinals then. So we say goodbye to Vern, to Fenestraz, to Hughes and to Daruvla. Freins and Van Dorn will go head-to-head in the first of the semi-finals, and then we'll see Jaguar versus Nissan. Cassidy and Roland in the fight for a spot in the final, coming up in a couple of moments' time. This is going to be hugely exciting to see what happens and which of the two drivers will be going toe-to-toe with one another in the fight for pole position in the desert. I just about got our breath back from that one, and now we wait for the semi-finals to get underway. Certainly getting a little bit cooler here as that sun is now beginning to set as well.
Because you've got the air conditioning turned down in the, the comms booth, Tom.
John-Eric Verne there. Of course, pole position for him 24 hours ago. It's amazing how quickly fortunes can turn.
Yeah, they're probably looking at the data between the two cars and just the differences between him and Stoffel Van Dorn. But the question is, obviously the sun going down, the track's going to be getting quicker, but how much quicker, and how much of that advantage that Oliver Rowland had was due to track conditions, how much of it was due to just his pace. God, I see Stoffel Van Dorn slide in the back of the car, heading down the hill.
Yeah, just harrying that car through these corners. It is just an absolute assault on all of the senses, this Diriyah E-Prix circuit.
That's one of the things that Daruvla is maybe struggling with a bit as a rookie. He's used to a Formula 2 car with slick tyres, loads of downforce, and that kind of sliding that the every corner in Formula E produces, that's completely alien to him. So this is one of the reasons he's maybe struggled that first race to get up to pace. But I have to say, his recovery this afternoon has been very, very impressive.
Well, his best qualifying position so far this year have been 19th and 21st. So whatever happens, it is easily his best qualifying, and only his second ever weekend. It's hugely impressive for Jehan Daruvla. As we look at the team of Nissan, just getting the car prepared and ready, and Roland will now be talking to his race engineer, working out the plan for this.
And this is the other story, isn't it? Are they changing the tub on the Envision car? Because we saw Leon Price talking to the FIA, and there were some very serious faces in the Envision garage. So let's see if they have to change the tub. If they do, it's going to be they're going to be up against the clock.
Well, a wry smile there for Buemi. I imagine it's a case of if he doesn't laugh, he'll cry sort of scenario, especially considering that his teammate on the other side of the garage has just made it through into the semis.
Yeah, and the shoe was on the other foot, wasn't it? Mexico City, Buemi finished in second, Freins crashing out of the race.
Yeah, exactly that. It's amazing how the tables can turn.
How long do we have? I think we should consider with the other set, to be honest. I don't know, how long do we have?
So they're talking tyres there, aren't they?
Yeah, he's thinking, well, which tyre set's going to be the sweet spot? Are they hot enough? Are they too hot? Are the colder set going to be better for them? Always thinking the drivers.
Yeah. Constant evolution of the circuit is certainly something to consider here as well. They are going to seemingly put a new set of boots on Roland's car. So just moments away then from the semi-finals getting underway here in Diriyah. And keen to see which of the two drivers first up, Robin Freins and Stoffel Van Dorn, is going to emerge on top. This is inside the Envision Racing Garage. Kind of activity on both sides, but for different reasons, of course. Car being rebuilt and inspected by the FIA for Sebastian Buemi following his crash at the end of Group B quali. And here is Robin Freins returning to Envision after a year in the doldrums at Abt Cupra. Great to see him back in a team that he's familiar with, raced with Envision for a good number of years in the Formula E Championship, and seemingly now adapting to that car a little bit better than he may have anticipated at this early stage of the season. Here's Stoffel Van Dorn and DS Penske, the 2022 champion.
We kind of forget that, don't we? He is a champion. He's done it. He knows how to win.
Well, he didn't win a race last year, did he? It's such an off-colour 2023 because of the Gen 3 cars that came in, and DS Penske just didn't
different
really...
tyres, different car, different style of racing, so different, and he's obviously it's taken him a little longer to adapt.
Yeah, exactly, but they seem to be getting their head around it.
Yes.
And it's incredible to see how the series is evolving as drivers and teams have gotten used to these Gen 3 cars. And you know, if you look at where we were at the start of 23 to the beginning of 2024, the rate of progress has been exceptional.
Yeah, absolutely right. So Nick Cassidy, 50th Formula E race today.
Yeah, also the same for Jake Dennis as well.
Dennis has won 6 races, Cassidy 5. Dennis has got a championship though.
Yeah, Cassidy will be hoping to try and take that crown this year. Very early stages of the season. About Oliver Rowland as well. Penny for the thoughts of him at the moment. Sat there just waiting with eager anticipation to go out. We know how hot he can get in the cockpit, and that's why he's got that fan on there. I'd say it's warm here in Diriyah. It is warm, but it's cooled down a fair bit considering where it was yesterday. It was sort of high 20s in terms of the air temperature. Here today it's about 21, 22 degrees. It's only going to be getting cooler now because we're in the late afternoon. Sun's beginning to go down, and we're getting ready for the race into the night this evening. What goes through your mind when you just sat there waiting to go out on track like this?
I'm just playing the lap through my head. I'm just playing what I think the grip level is. I'm just almost running a film of the lap in my head, breaking points, what I need to do, maybe where I was slow the run before, where I think I can gain a little bit of time, what that's going to look like, and just trying to keep my head as clear as possible, not get distracted by anything.
We see athletes wanting to get in the zone. I remember there was a Moto3 rider years ago called Philip Ertel, and he used to visualise the lap. You see him in the pit box, actually, you know, going through it and moving around all over the place like a gymnast.
E-racers did that. Yeah, I can still visualise a lap of somewhere like Toronto that I haven't driven in 11 years. I know every bump. It's just one of the odd things. I can't remember what I had for dinner last night, but I can do that.
It was sushi, and it was very nice. It was good. It was good, yeah. Sylvain Filippi there, just on the left-hand side of your picture. Jay Penske to the top right. James Barkley in the bottom left. And then you saw Dorian Bourdin, the acting team principal for this weekend.
And that man's Leon Price, and he is absolutely key to the Envision team. He's been there a long time. Son of Dave Price, much-loved character in racing, who's sadly no longer with us.
So there is Stoffel Van Dorn. He'll be going out in a few moments' time with Robin Freins. Waiting for these semi-finals to get underway. A few moments to go, and the drivers will be exiting onto the pit lane and then lining up ready for the first of the semi-finals. So this is how we got here from the quarterfinals. We see Robin Freins versus Stoffel Van Dorn going head-to-head first of all. Nick Cassidy managed to beat Jake Hughes. Oliver Rowland likewise beating Jehan Darubala. So it's a Cassidy-Rowland shootout in the semis. Which one of those will be making it into the finals? So let's see how this is going to work out as the sun begins to set and the pressure begins to build for the drivers in the semi-finals. And it's very hard to overstate just how difficult it is to put one of these laps together. In terms of the predictor, 64% of you think it's going to go the way of Stoffel Van Dorn in the first of the semi-finals against Robin Freins, but Freins has had good pace so far. The Jaguar not looking too bad this weekend in Diriyah either.
Yeah, but the form book's been thrown out the window. We've set fire to that, haven't we, already? Just one thing that Stoffel Van Dorn, DS Penske have been on a bit of a hiring spree, and they now have his race engineer is Kyle Wilson-Clark, that was at Porsche before and was with Pascal Wehrlein, so he knows what they did very well last year here to win the race.
Well, there are the tense faces of Envision as they wait to go out on track for Stoffel Van Dorn as well, for DS Penske, as they now begin their warm-up laps. So this is where things are going to get really interesting in the semi-finals. One bite at the cherry in order to try and beat your opponent.
And we've seen what happens when you try too hard already.
Yeah, that's the thing, isn't it? You've got to be so careful. Here is Van Dorn just warming his way up. And likewise as well for Robin Freins. Freins just making his way through. The thing is, it's a real narrow operating window, as I understand it, with these Hankook tyres. You want to make sure you don't overheat them, but you don't get them too cold either.
Yeah, by all accounts, it's much narrower operating window than we had with the previous tyre. And yeah, if you miss it, there's just no grip. And the margin between success and failure is so small that you cannot afford that.
Yeah, absolutely right. So on board we ride here with Van Dorn as he heads down the back straight, weaving slightly from side to side and into the braking zone. Robin Freins begins his flying lap then here. Let's see how this is going to work out for the Dutchman as he heads in towards the first corner. This is where teammate Boemi binned it in the group stages. No such dramas for Freins as he makes his way through into the toboggan run.
Carried some good speed, sorry Tom.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right, he did, but he had a little bit of a wiggle on the rear
too
there.
much though. Too much about turn 6-7, just lost the back end of it.
Yeah, on board with Stoffel van Doorn down in towards the first corner as well. Nice and okay for him through there. This is going to be interesting as he just brushes against the wall on the outside of turn 3. It's looking pretty close. Freins has got the initial advantage here through this first sector. Van Doorn looking a little bit on the back foot for now.
Yeah, but this was a round where Freins had the moment. It was whether he lifted off the throttle that's going to be the big tell.
Let's see what the runs are like out of... Oh, big slide there for Freins as he comes out of 17. That's going to compromise his run all the way down this straight as he heads into the braking zone.
Yeah, only if he lifted off, though.
Let's see how it works out. Couple of bites of the cherry into 18 there for him, but otherwise all okay for Freins. 2 corners now remain for the Dutchman. What sort of lap time is this going to be? We've been into the low 1-minute 10s. I don't think it's going to be a record beater for Freins. As he comes to the line, it's a 1:10.4. But what about Stoffel van Doorn? He makes his way through into the final series of corners, through 18, through 19, through turn 20. 0.2 of a second is the disadvantage that he's got to try and make up as he aims for the final corner. Comes out of it now. It's not enough for Van Doorn. It's going to be Robin Freins that progresses forwards into the finals then. Envision Racing do make it into the fight for pole position here in Diriyah. That was mega. What a mega lap time.
Just chuckle in here. Just take the form book, throw it away. That was fantastic stuff.
Yeah, brilliant.
And we are through onto the final, mate.
Robin Freins makes it through for Envision Racing, sliding his way through, despite a couple of moments on that lap. It wasn't the tidiest that we've seen from him.
No, but Robin always looks like he's absolutely on the edge of an accident. That's when he does his best work, and yet again, he's done his best work there.
Well, who's going to be joining him in the fight for the front row then? Semi-final 2, Nick Cassidy versus Ollie Rowland. And you think it's going to go the way of Nick Cassidy. Let's see how this is going to work out for the Kiwi then as he makes his way through turn 2, through turn 3, and then begins his run on this opening and one and only lap.
That was a great view from above. You could see the sliding through that whole 5, 6, 7 section of the track. On board with Oliver Rowland through 1.
Bit of a snap of oversteer there through 2, but otherwise all okay through turn 3. Rowland, as we know, bit of a qualifying specialist, but can he extract the maximum performance, and will it be enough to depose Nick Cassidy in the Jaguar? 22.789 for Cassidy in the first sector, 7.08 for Rowland. He's 18,000s, 8/100ths of a second now, up over Nick Cassidy. So it's advantage Rowland in the early stages. How close was Cassidy to the wall there on the outside of 17? Into 18 and 19, nice and tidy there for Cassidy. Still advantage for Rowland. Wait for the second sector. Let's see what the times are going to be. Cassidy's catching. It's a 1/10 of a second in it between them as we go through the final corner now for Nick Cassidy. What's the time going to be on the door? It's a 1:10.295 for Nick Cassidy. Through into the final corner for Oliver Rowland. He's been up in the first sector. He was up in the second sector. There's just a couple more corners now remaining, but Rowland nice and neat and tidy here.
It really was. He didn't use all the road through 18. That set him up nicely for 19 as he comes to the last corner.
Oh, Rowland does it then. It's a 1:10.098. Oliver Rowland, take a bow. It's going to be a front row start at the very least for the boy from Barnsley. He gets himself into the fight for the front row here in Diriyah. What a fantastic performance, knocking out the man who fought for the title in 2023, Nick Cassidy. Let's have a look at Rowland's lap then. Sliding his way through with these super slow-mos. Absolutely on the ragged edge of adhesion.
Okay, Oli, well done. Scenario 6. Well done, Oli, well done. Good job. Scenario 6, respect the one.
So like I said, Tom, the final, Robin Freins Phillips versus Oliver Rowland. That's what I said, wasn't it? At the start of this session.
I mean, that is throwing the form book out to the extreme, isn't it? We've mentioned just how different it has been in a space of 24 hours here in Diriyah. And if you'd said it was going to be a Nissan fighting with an Envision, I'd have thought, well, okay, yeah, fair enough. That sounds like a likely scenario. But if you'd said it was going to be Robin Freins versus Oliver Rowland, I'd have struggled to believe you, to be quite honest. What a session. What a lineup this is going to be. Robin Freins and Oliver Rowland make their way through into the finals for round 3 of the Diriyah E-Prix here in the desert. A Dutchman versus a Briton, an Envision versus a Nissan, and a Jaguar versus a Nissan powertrain as well. This is going to be hugely exciting. Let's see how this works out and which of the drivers will emerge on top and claim pole position here in the desert. Don't forget about the Formula E Predictor app as well. Scan the QR code in the top left corner of your screen and you can get involved in the action and see which of those 2 drivers you think is going to make it forwards into the fight for pole position. Just looking in terms of the lap times here, Dario, it will be 3rd on the grid for Nick Cassidy. I suppose a small crumb of comfort in that he's starting on the clean side.
Yes, which some of the drivers were talking about how big a thing that is going to be tonight, just to gain 1 foot, 2 feet off the start, and then also into the braking zone of turn 18, which is the first corner that they come to give them some kind of advantage to gain 1, maybe 2 spots.
What lap time did I do? Does it work on my dash?
0.09, 10.09. You have
I wasn't
just looking at the lap time.
I could do better.
Okay, so...
Beg your pardon, didn't mean to interrupt the conversation there between Ollie and his race engineer, but I mean, he was some 0.3 of a second faster than Robin Freins. I know that the track is evolving all the time, but it's still a healthy advantage.
Evolution. Yeah, and for him to say that, I wonder if that's a bit of mind games. Certainly, if I was in the Envision garage, I wouldn't be telling Freins, oh yeah, you can go quicker.
I have to have a look through the stat book and see the last time we saw that a Nissan was on pole position. See Robin Freins, this is him harrying that car through.
This is up the top of the hill, different part of the track, turn 5. It's going into 6. Lovely. Nissan looks very well balanced there.
Yeah, Freins now just waiting with eager anticipation to get out onto the track for 1 final flying lap. Saunders mentioned actually in free practice 3 just about how difficult it is to put these series of laps together. It's about 7 or 8 laps that you've got to do over the course of the whole qualifying session, including the groups and the duels, and to get those bob on pretty much every time.
Yeah, with varying levels of grip, with varying levels of power that you're dealing with as well. It's one thing to sort of to fluke 1 lap, but you've got that consistency is absolutely key in Formula E qualifying. And as I said, consistency with different grip levels, different power levels too.
So Nick Cassidy there, not looking too disappointed. 3rd on the grid for him. I think that's something for him to smile about. He's just actually behind our commentary box at the moment. There is Sasha Fenestraz on the other side of the Nissan garage. He actually, of course, took the last Nissan pole position, Cape Town 2023. Let's see whether Rowland is going to be able to try and topple that feat here this afternoon. It's in the history books. So, time for a duel in the desert then, ready to go for the finals for round 3 of the Diriyah E-Prix. The sun is beginning to set, temperatures are getting cooler, but in the garages it is only hotting up, and it will be on track in a few moments' time. This is a side-by-side comparison of Freins versus Rowland in the semis a couple of moments ago, Dario.
Let's just watch the amount of steering the drivers are putting in. Quite similar so far. To report, a little bit of snap of oversteer from Oliver Rowland, and now one from Freins. You can see him just fighting with it. Both used a similar amount of curb in 5, and this is the area where the rhythm really starts to come in. How much can you just float? How much can you stay off the brake pedal? How good is the balance of the car? Decent through there. Now the bump in 14. Who rides the bump well? Yeah, actually a bit more of a reaction, I would say, from the Envision than the Nissan. You watch how they go to the inside of turn 16. A couple of bites of the cherries. Sorry, Tom. You see the snap as they get back to throttle. Big snap from Rowland initially, then gets the car straightened out nicely to get the run up steeply uphill. You don't really see it there. Now watch the braking for 18. No, that was very neat. Again, it's easier to it's easy to overdrive these tyres. This car, you've got to just slightly underdrive it, is the fast way. So I've been told. But it's very easy to overdrive it, especially when you get the frustration. But you see Oliver Rowland having the advantage over the finish line. Lovely job from him, and he says he can do better.
Yeah, 0.3 of a second the advantage he held over Robin Fries in terms of lap time between those two semi-finals. So it's definitely all to play for here. The steely blue eyes from the Barnsley boy.
I love the blue interior, very retro interior in his the helmet there.
Reminds me of like an Olivier Panis style thing. I think he used to have a blue interior to his helmet.
In the 80s, the early 80s, they had it was the Nomex linings of the helmets were that sort of blue colour, and they all went to Bell, a sort of tan coloured, and Arai was more black, but the blue stuff, it's really very retro, and I think very cool.
Speaking of retro, I was watching some racing the other day. Do you remember the balaclavas used to have the piece of material over your nose? Used to go. You don't get that so much anymore. Mansell used to be a big fan of it.
Yeah, and Michael Andretti too, and Marco Andretti. I don't know why. It was, I guess, originally it was a fire risk, and it minimised that and kind of protected your nose.
Here we are going off on a tangent just before we get ourselves focused on the final then. So Robin Freins seeking pole position. The first time he took pole was when Envision were called Envision Virgin back in February 2021 here at Diriyah. His only other pole came last year in Berlin for Abt Cupra. Let's see whether he is going to be able to try and overhaul the fast-charging Oliver Rowland as the drivers line up at pit exit and get themselves ready to go out onto the track. So this is how we got here then, from the quarters into the semis and the finals. Freins and Van Dorn went head-to-head in the semis. We saw Cassidy versus Rowland going 2-2 with one another as well. Freins versus Rowland is the lineup for the finals for round 3 of the Diriyah E-Prix in the qualifying duels. It is going to be hugely exciting to see which of them will emerge on top. Will it be Envision Racing and Robin Freins for his first pole since Berlin last year, or will we see Oliver Rowland taking Nissan's first pole since Cape Town 2023? In terms of the two, they've gone head-to-head once before. 61% of you think it's going to go the way of Oliver Rowland and Nissan. Only 39% there for Robin Freins. Well, in a couple of minutes' time, we'll find out exactly what the form book is going to look like. Predictions, Dario?
No idea. I mean, it's so close to call. Just looking, sun's going down, so the conditions have changed again to what we saw earlier. It's just so difficult to find an advantage, but also to do a clear lap.
So out onto the track emerges Robin Freins then. Now is the time to build heat into the tyres, get everything working into the optimum range as he threads the eye of the needle at a slightly slower speed than he'll be going in just over a minute.
I certainly hope so.
As he aims in the battle for pole position. On board we ride with Rowland as he now exits pit lane. There's a determined period of time between the two cars as they exit the pits. They'll go onto track so they don't encounter one another. They'll hopefully have as good a possibility as they can to aim for pole position. Francesca Valdani, the team manager for Nissan, just watching on. Penny for her heart rate at the moment. Sylvain Filippi, likewise, always looks pretty cool as a cucumber, but I imagine be a little bit tense in there as the drivers go through the second sector, merging onto the back straight here for Robin Freins. I see him weaving just a couple of times as he runs down in towards the braking zone of 18 and 19. This is where the lap could possibly be won or lost.
Yeah, absolutely, the braking zone for turn 18, but you saw Robin Freins look down, turn the engine up to 11, turn the powertrain up to 11, and get ready to start the lap. Oliver Rowland now crosses the finish line. The timing obviously is taken at the start line. This time is taken at the finish line somewhat confusingly.
Yep.
There is said timeline.
So, beginning the one and only flying lap of the dual qualifying in the finals, in the fight for pole position, is Robin Freins. Makes his way through turn 1 and turn 2. All okay, a little bit squirrely on the exit of 3, but otherwise fine. Over the crest of the hill he comes, and down through the left-handers. Looking nice and neat and tidy so far here for the Dutchman.
Yeah, and he thinks he knows where the grip level is, but he's continually testing that, getting on the throttle just fractions earlier, and that's when you're seeing the car just break away a little bit. We see it on board Oliver Rowland now coming through the turn 4 area. Looks like he's got a bit of understeer. The front tyre's maybe not into the operating window.
Freinz there getting really sideways on the run through into the right hand, and that might have just cost him a tenth of a second or two. You can see Oliver Rowland in the bottom right-hand corner of your screen. First sector time, it was advantage Ollie Rowland then. Tenth of a second up, he was over Robin Freinz. Coming onto the back straight then here is the Dutchman over the crest of the hill into the braking zone of turn 18 and 19. Needs to get this one nice and sweet. Lovely through turn 18 for him.
Rowland's a tenth and a half up at this point, though he's looking good.
Yeah, a couple of corners now remaining then here for Robin Freinz, down in towards turn 21 as he aims to break the beam. What is the lap time going to be for the Envision? It's a 1 minute 10.329, but Rowland is a tenth and a half up as he makes his way through turns 18 and 19. Through into turn 20 we go. What's it like in the second sector? He's up further still. It's nearly 2/10 of a second the advantage for Ollie Rowland. He comes to the line. It's pole position for Ollie Rowland for round 3 here in Diriyah. The boy from Barnsley is back, and he does it in superb style to take top honours in qualifying here in Saudi Arabia. It's Nissan's first pole since Cape Town 2023 as well. It'll be delight for Rowland, disappointment for Robin Freinz and for Envision, but what a session. The Formberg well and truly has been ripped up, thrown out the window, and it's been rewritten by Oliver Rowland for Team Nissan. What a fantastic lap time there for him. Got that one exactly where he needed to.
That's why I came back. Come on!
And that's his first 3 points of the season.
It is, yeah.
Right there. And he's starting on the clean side of the track too.
Yeah, 3 points, of course, in the award for pole position. Of course, he gets the Julius Baer pole position trophy as well, so nice bit of silverware to take home, whatever happens here. And we know that qualifying is so critical, and that, of course, has now put him in the best position possible going into the race tonight.
Yeah, a race that's 1 lap shorter than last night with the same energy, so it's going to be even more a flat-out race. And timeline qualifying will be critical. Now they've got to get the tactics right, when to use attack mode, all those different things. But job 1 is done, pole position.
I love that. Sacha Fenestrad's just going to congratulate the team as well. You can imagine he was a little bit disappointed, but look at the delight on the French-Argentine driver's face. And you can see exactly what it means to Team Nissan. They've had something of an up and down 18 months in Formula E since the introduction of Gen 3. Some highlights, of course, coming courtesy of that pole position. A podium as well, also for Norman Nato in Rome last year. But since then, it's been a bit of a challenge for them, and it's great for Rowland to be bouncing back to the top of the order. As Dario rightly said, 3 points for pole position here as he gets weighed with his car at the end of the session, and we'll be hearing from him in a few minutes time as well, getting his thoughts on the end of that session and that lap time. A 1:10.055, just to give you an idea of a comparison for what he did in the semi-finals. It was a 1:10.098 within 0.05 of a second.
Talked about consistency, didn't we? Just fantastic there. And yeah, this is the difficulty. When you get out of the rhythm, you cannot do that. Oliver Rowland clearly in the rhythm of qualifying, and this is the fun part. Driver just pushing the car as hard as he possibly can. Everybody doing that, no energy saving, flat out, and Nelson's the quickest man in the place.
Well, Rowland's best starting position this season before this was 14th place, so he's going to be so high up he'll have a nosebleed after that one. Really impressive stuff from Ollie.
Watch the car, watch the tyres and reacting to the bumps on the track, and yeah, that'll look even different tonight again with with different energy levels, with different power to use.
Sacha Fenestraz down there, celebrating with Team Nissan. Delight for them. Let's see what Ollie's thoughts are going to be at the end of that session. I have to say, coming back into Formula E, there was a little bit of a whisper in the air as to, is he still going to have the same sort of motivation after the split from Mahindra last year? But he's proven that he's bounced back with spectacular buoyancy.
I think his motivation was absolutely there. I am going to prove all these doubters wrong. You watch. And he's done exactly that.
Well, Robin Freinz as well said on the team radio after the end of that session he didn't have 3/10 in him, so ultimately that was all he could do. And look at the delight. A wide-eyed grin And an embrace from Sasha Fenestraz as well. Delight for Oliver Rowland and for Team Nissan. Fantastic job from him. I can't wait to hear his thoughts at the end of this session as well. And like I said earlier on, given how unpredictable this session has been, super impressive for him, and amazing for that form book to be ripped up, really.
Yeah, and you said it about the consistency in times between semi-final and final. That shows somebody that's at one with the car, and he's got the car working exactly how he wanted for that qualifying session.
Yeah, Robin Freund's car there just getting weighed up, and he'll be happy with second place in a front row start. Tried his hardest. What a fantastic qualifying session we have had, though, here in the desert in Diriyah. Pole position going the way of Oliver Rowland for Team Nissan. Can he convert it, though, into the victory under the lights tonight?
So there we have it. It's Oliver Rowland in the Nissan who takes pole for the race this evening. Karun, what a performance he put in.
Really superb performance, and I think you have to look at the wider context. You know, he came off a difficult season last year where he was really struggling and quit the Mahindra team halfway through the season. He chose to break his contract, buy himself out of his contract, which, as a sports person, that's a risk, isn't it, to leave a team halfway through a season, and went back to Nissan, and it's worked out for him. Nissan haven't had a car in the duels at all this season. This is the first time, and they've ended up on pole.
Well, shall we have a look at the starting grid, shall we, for the race this evening? It felt like the form guide just kind of went completely out the window today, Karun.
Yeah, I mean, Da Costa's ended up on the back row of the grid. Di Grassi didn't look happy. Nato, he was strong in the Andretti. 5th on the grid yesterday, down in 20th today. We heard his teammate Jake Dennis really complaining about the Andretti cars, and they had no balance and no grip, and that's why Dennis has ended up down 15th alongside Dan Ticktum. So yeah, massive disappointment for him.
I mean, Dennis back there, talk about his car, he's going to struggle, isn't he?
It's going to be a challenge unless they can really correct the balance. But there's some heavy hitters. Bird and Evans, they finished 4th and 5th yesterday, and they were in the lead pack. Buemi, we know, was super competitive, and he's down in 11th. So I think the race could be quite exciting because Gunther, Buemi, they were in the top 4 in Mexico just a couple of races ago.
Well, there we have it. I mean, Pascal Wehrlein, he's had a very disappointing time here in Diriyah after the big win in Mexico. And as we move through the grid there, Jean-Eric Vergne, who took pole yesterday, another disappointing day for him. I'm sure he'd have expected a lot more. But Jehan Daruvala, a lot of gained experience actually competing in the duels. First time doing that for him. Yeah, I mean, fantastic performance for him. He was on the back row of the grid yesterday, learnt the car, learnt the track, and he's now ended up in the top 5. Nick Cassidy will be very pleased to be in the top 3. He had a super strong performance. Podium in Mexico, of course. Podium yesterday, and he's starting in the top 3. Well, if the race is anything to go by from yesterday, we've got a lot to look forward to. It was Oliver Rowland who took pole. You can see the delight there in the Nissan garage. It really was a brilliant performance from Oliver Rowland, putting a really smooth drive, Karun. Yeah, he did just a great performance all the way through. Tom mentioned it there in commentary. If you look at the consistency of his lap times, he was always just within a tenth or so of optimizing what he'd done. He kept his cool, kept his calm. He's a very, very good qualifier. I think this is his 6th pole in Formula E. So, he's clearly got the ability to unlock the pace over one lap. It's whether he's got the tools in the car underneath him. And today he did. I mean, we've spoken about how the form guide kind of went out the window, Karun. Let's have a conversation about those that I suppose surprised us, the ones that didn't quite make it as far as we thought, they did yesterday. Yeah, the red flag for Sebastian Buemi kind of made a bit of a mess of some things, didn't it? Because if I'm honest, I was a little bit surprised with the red flag because Buemi crossed the line with a second to go. So actually the checkered flag was out. So when he crashed, they could have just let the drivers finish that lap, actually. They didn't
I don't think they necessarily needed to throw the red flag out. They could have let those drivers who were on their laps there close out the lap. As Sam Bird was saying earlier, you know, he would have got himself into the duel. So I think maybe a bit of something for the FIA to review for afterwards. Yeah. But yeah, for sure, you know, the Porsche drivers will be disappointed, Andretti drivers will be disappointed. But it means that we're going to have a nice jumbled up grid for the race later on today.
Yeah, that is going to be nice for us to have a little walk down that grid and talk, you know, to some new faces a little bit higher up the grid maybe. So what about, you know, someone like Jean-Eric Vergne, was in the quarterfinals. So, you know, I would say probably, what, a steady session for himself.
Yeah, solid. You know, I think that's a decent performance for him to be 8th. His teammate, Stoffel van Dorn, 4th. So he had a tough day yesterday, but he sort of recovered. And, you know what, and I think that's where with these double headers, you think, oh, well, we've seen day one, we're going to see, you know, that you almost think that you're going to see the same people up at the sharp end the next day. But the margins are so close between getting a lap together and not in qualifying that you've got this totally topsy-turvy grid again.
Yeah, well, Nicky caught up with him earlier to see how he's feeling going into the race today.
Oliver Rowland, huge congratulations. What a lap. You said after the semis, I can go quicker, guys, and you did. Your 7th career pole, well done.
Yeah, thank you. Honestly, I'm just relieved to be back here. It's been a very, very difficult 2 years. We knew we had the pace ever since pre-season testing, but the first 2 rounds, nothing quite went to plan. But today, the team did an amazing job last night. And I'd just like to thank all them, everybody at Nissan for the mega car today. And yeah, I guess we're back on the map and in the mix.
That's what we like to hear. So you feel like you've got a mega car. Does that mean maintaining track position is going to be no problem in this race?
Well, apart from the attack mode, I think we should be okay. So we just need to make the strategy on that good. But yeah, the pace we had yesterday was good. So if we can repeat that today and make sure we're clever with our strategy, I think we can at least be on the podium.
Well, let's invite Regis Berger from Julius Baer to present you with your pole position trophy that will look very nice on the mantelpiece. Congratulations to Oliver Rowland and the Nissan team.
And that was actually Oliver Rowland speaking to Nicky there. Let's have a quick look at his lap that got him that pole, Kareem.
Yeah, we'll try and get into it. I mean, it's 1 minute and 10. Let's see how much we can get through. But it's a clean run. The first part of the lap is very, very important here because, you know, that gives you the confidence. It sets you up for the rest of the lap. And you could see as the session unfolded, Oliver was getting more and more brave with just the speed he was running through there. But also calm. No real mistakes. And you could see threading the eye of the needle through these walls here. You could watch his hands. There's a lot of movement, but it's controlled aggression. And I think that really is what set him up for pole position. And yeah, let's see if he can carry that on later on today. That's exactly what we're going to do, Kareem. We're going to see if he can carry it. It was a brilliant, brilliant drive from Oliver Rowland. The drivers are going to be ready later on for this big race that we've absolutely got to enjoy yesterday, sorry. And so in just a few hours, drivers will line up for the second race of a doubleheader here in Diriyah. Last night, it was an action-packed event, so make sure you come back and join us later on.